The world is believed to be a global village, and just like an actual village, it has clans. Of all the clans in this village, the G7 is the most powerful, but it looks like its position in the scheme of things might be challenged very soon. This might be surprising, but the steady rise of BRICS is making it seem like this is a possibility. BRICS, made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is an economic forum that might be looking to give the G7 a run for its money. BRICS might not be well known, and you might never have heard of them. Nonetheless, this group is in charge of a joint GDP of $25 trillion. What is BRICS up to? It might not be super clear what BRICS is up to, but this group seems bent on developing a de-dollarized system. This is going to be a break from the norm. However, this looks possible as these nations are looking to trade amongst themselves. Although they have been doing this for a long time, this time it appears they will not be using the dollar while trading amongst themselves. There is no conclusion on the currency that will be used for these trades. Also, there is a likelihood that the nations in BRICS can trade with each other using their own currencies. If the countries in BRICS can successfully trade amongst themselves with their currencies, or with any special currency they come up with, they just might be getting out of the control of the West. This might not be a big deal for nations like South Africa, but it's interesting how we cannot say the same about Russia and China. You see, Russia, for one, is at loggerheads with the rest of the world. This has almost always been the case. However, it has gotten worse since Putin ordered the attack on Ukraine. The United States and its allies do not support this war. Also, they have not just folded their hands to watch. They have hit Russia with sanctions upon sanctions just to cripple the Russian economy. While it might seem like there is no correlation between these sanctions and Russia's attack on Ukraine, however, the fact is that if the Russian economy gets weakened, it will struggle to carry on with this attack. Russia is not the only country that stands to enjoy a major gain from the success of BRICS. China does too. Right now, the Chinese are planning to attack Taiwan and bring it under the control of mainland China. This is not a secret. However, it appears China hasn't gone on with its planned attack because of the economic repercussions. You see, just like Russia, it will be hit with lots of sanctions, especially around trade, and this will affect its already struggling economy. Apart from the fear of all sorts of sanctions, it will no longer enjoy economic cooperation on the scale it currently does, and this is just not good. Just like the invasion of Ukraine by Russia didn't lead to a world war, that of Taiwan by China, if it happens, will most likely not cause other countries to interfere. There is no guarantee of this, though. However, the world's global powers know the world might not be able to survive a third world war. So if the countries that make up BRICS begin trading more frequently amongst themselves, they will be able to make the United States less influential in the grand scheme of things. Also, they will successfully weaken its economy, which has enjoyed massive growth because of dollarization. With the US weakened and economic sanctions out the window, there will be nothing stopping countries like China and Russia from doing whatever they want. The above scenario is grave, and things might not get to this point. The United States and its allies might stay powerful for a much longer time. Nonetheless, beyond the nations in BRICS being free to do as they like, forming an economic alliance can alter the balance of global economics. This is because of how influential and large these nations are. What is BRICS's goal? The existence of BRICS make it seem like it's all over for the G7 nations, but this is far from the case. You see, the countries that make up BRICS are not the best of friends. However, they can enjoy a lot of economic benefits. At this point, we know the countries that make up BRICS and what these countries seem to be after. But because these countries have quite different ideologies, especially when their relationship to the West is concerned, it becomes important to know what exactly the goal of this group is. Additionally, what's the likelihood of this group succeeding, and is there going to be any issue with countries that are not in this group? Before we go on, this is a good time to like and share this video. Also, subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. BRICS, as it is today, wasn't formed as a result of a super plan to come up with a group that directly opposes the G7 and whatever the West stands for. It was the idea of economists who put together some emerging economies of the world and came up with a suitable acronym. When BRICS was formed, it was initially BRIC, before the inclusion of South Africa. Well, the countries that make up BRICS today were not exactly part of any group. However, after economists put them together, they decided to make BRICS a reality. So BRICS is first mentioned in the early 2000s. However, the countries that make up this group had their first actual meeting in 2009. BRICS did not end with just allying. They also went on to form what can be considered the equivalent of the IMF, and they called it the New Development Bank, which is also known as the BRICS Bank. This bank was designed to invest in less developed economies until they were big enough to add some value to the group. In addition to the BRICS Bank, which is only open to a few countries, the nations that make up BRICS are looking to build undersea optical fiber cables so all member nations can have better communication. This might seem like a big deal, but it's not as difficult as you might assume, as all the nations involved, apart from Brazil, are quite close to one another. But there's more. These nations are even interested in their games, just like the Olympics. Well, this might not seem necessary, but Russia has a different opinion. Due to the war in Ukraine, Russia has been unable to take part in games hosted by FIFA. And if BRICS doesn't come up with various sports competitions, Russia might just have to forget about sports. Right now, it's easy to say the countries that make up BRICS are done living in the shadow of the United States. This makes a lot of sense, but could there be more? We get that the BRICS nations do not want to have to pay sanctions because a G7 nation didn't approve of something they did. Because, come to think of it, who sanctions the G7 nations when they do things that are considered contrary to global ethics? Think about the United States attacking Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam. There were no sanctions. Also, the G7 nations will not be comfortable trading with one another only with the use of the Russian currency. As much as the nations that do not fall into the G7 might be uncomfortable having to always play by the rules of other countries, their reasons for forming BRICS is quite questionable. It just might be an economic movement that is being hostile to an already established force. Consequently, some European and U.S. policymakers worry that the BRICS may become less an economic club of rising powers seeking to influence global growth and development, and more a political one defined by their authoritarian nationalism. The member nations of BRICS might not quite agree with this. However, time will tell what the exact motivation behind this body is. How successful will BRICS be? The countries that make up BRICS might seem like powerhouses, but are they really that powerful? Apart from China and maybe Russia, these countries are not exactly powerhouses. That's not all. Although this group has been around for more than a decade, it has not achieved much. With BRICS, there is currently no chosen reserve currency. However, if a currency from these member nations is to be chosen, that will be the Chinese yen, as it is the strongest economy in this group. While as big as the Chinese currency might seem, it is basically on the same level as the Australian and Canadian dollars. The Chinese economy might be the strongest of the BRICS nations, and it does seem like the Chinese yen will be a reserve currency. There are rumors, however, that there will be a fresh currency that will have the backing of gold. This may work, but there is no guarantee. When BRICS was unofficially formed, its founding members were enjoying a great deal of economic growth. According to Lord Jim O'Neill, who formed the abbreviation, one of the most remarkable things is the performance of China in the past 30 years. It is also true that by and large India has essentially achieved the broad growth path that we outlined, and that's why today China and India are so much bigger parts of the world economy than they were 20 years ago. Unfortunately, that's not the case today. These countries that were growing very rapidly have stopped growing at the rate they once did. Due to how fast they were growing, economists expected them to get a lot bigger. Sadly, most have plateaued, while others, like Russia, are experiencing a decline. Before the several rounds of sanctions it is dealing with, the Russian economy was stagnant for a long time. Well, it appears stagnancy is too good a word for this economy, as the many sanctions it has received are taking a toll on that economy. Brazil may not be dealing with any sanctions, however, its economy has stopped growing. it has yet to fully recover from the effects of the pandemic. Just like Brazil and Russia, South Africa has not grown in about 10 years. If you think these challenges have nothing to do with China, you're not aware of global economics. You see, the Chinese economy is maturing. There is little to no room for growth. Now, if the founding members of BRICS are quite overwhelmed by their massive economies, what is the guarantee that they will be able to handle the economies of other countries when they get bigger? When you look at things from an economic point of view, BRICS might have been overhyped. But even beyond the economy, this group is far from a match made in heaven. Unlike the G7 nations that are allies, the founding members of BRICS cannot be considered allies. Two of the biggest nations in this group, India and China, have had military confrontations in the last couple of years, so this group doesn't quite seem like a marriage that will last the test of time. At this point, it might seem like we do not think very highly of BRICS. That's not the case, but you see, holding economic meetings every year will not elevate BRICS to the level of the G7. It will take a lot more than that. The countries that make up BRICS might have stopped experiencing economic growth. However, BRICS is still growing, and it has expanded to accommodate Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other countries. There are rumors that Nigeria will be applying to join soon, and that will help it sell oil in Naira. Well, time will tell how big BRICS will end up getting. We draw the curtains here. See you in the next video.